Don't judge me. Just saying. I definitely shouldn't record these with tea and biscuits. It's not good for anyone. But we're just going to go with it. We're just going to go with it and see what happens. Now, I want to talk about anxiety and fear when doing landscape photography. The reason I say is I got an email. I'm not going to say who it was from. But I really went to town on my reply. So I thought I should do a video about this. So the basic gist of his email was, what do you do to defend yourself by attack of a person or an animal? And what do you do if you have an accident or get sick on location? First things first, this is something I used to worry about a lot. My biggest fear was going on like a 2 or 3 hour hike away from, anyone. And that's often what I like to do. I like to get away from the crowds and shoot in these locations where there are no people, and I like to camp over and stay in these locations where there are no people. And a big worry of mine, and I'm sure with many people, is what happens if you get sick. So about 5, 6, maybe even 7 years ago, I was in bed, and like that, I became very, very ill, very unwell. Couldn't get out of bed. I was vomiting, I was in agony, and it came on from nowhere. And it turned out I had appendicitis, and I ended up being rushed to the hospital. One thing led to another, and it turned out my appendix were on the brink of bursting. Now this all happened in like a 3 or 4 hour period. I was fine, and then I woke up in the middle of the night and it was all over. So that was a bad experience for me. And the reason that was a bad experience is because it was unexpected and it came from nowhere. And my first thought was, what if this happened whilst I was out camping? Quite often where I go, there is no mobile phone service. So what would I do? And this put me off going out for long periods of time in the middle of nowhere by myself, which is often what I've always liked to do. And it's taken me a while to rationalise this fear. And that appendicitis is the only incident in 33 years of my life where I've fallen ill in a very short period of time. Don't get me wrong, I've been ill many times. You get flu, you get excuse me. You get the flu, you get stomach problems, you get back problems, but usually they have warnings. So you can feel them coming on. They're not instant. They would never be, it's unlikely that they would cause any problems if they happened whilst out and about, because you would just pack up and you would feel a bit rough and you'd go home. So my answer to the question of what do you do about feeling ill and or getting injured on location, with feeling ill or becoming sick, you need to rationalize it. Okay, you need to think, okay, how many days in the past 5 years have I been bedridden or fallen ill, in a split second? And the answer probably is never. So having this fear of having a heart attack or a stroke or something whilst out on location, it is a real fear, and I have it myself, but you have to manage it, and you can't let these phobias and anxieties prevent you from moving forward with your photography. Life is more important than that. Now, with regards to animal attacks and people attacks, I'm quite certain that if you live in a civilized society, nobody is going to be attacking you when in the wilderness. Don't get me wrong, there are psychopaths out there who probably will stalk us, hunt us, and kill us in the forests in the middle of nowhere. But realistically, it's 1 in a million chance, so I wouldn't worry about that. Wild animals, that's something I don't have experience with, and I cannot offer any advice on, unfortunately. In the UK, we don't have any dangerous animals, so it's nothing I've ever had to worry about. So let's talk about what's likely to happen. The most likely scenario is that you injure yourself whilst away from any help, basically. You may not have phone signal, and there may not be anybody within shouting distance. So it's quite straightforward. Take these basic precautions every time you head out. Always tell somebody where you're going, what your plans are, and when you expect to be back. That's so important, because if you're off the path, taking a nice photograph of a tree just on the edge of a little ravine, and you fall down that ravine, you're knackered, unless somebody knows where you are and can eventually send a rescue party. So always tell someone where you're going, even if you scribble it down on a piece of paper, which I do. So I'll write down what I'm doing, where I'm camping, when I'll be back, stick it on my desk and say, right, I'm going out, information's in my office. Charlotte knows that if anything ever happens, she can find the information on my desk. If you don't have anybody to tell, just do a social media post, or leave a note on the dashboard of your car. Not with too much detail. You don't want to attract unwanted attention on your vehicle, but you know, just a little note saying gone to Windy Gap, and that's it. Gone to Windy Gap. So if you're at Windy Gap and you fall, or I don't know, become sick, eventually someone's going to find your car, they're going to see the note, and there's a good chance you'll be rescued. Always take GPS and take a mobile phone, even if you don't have service. Quite often you don't. It appears that you don't have service, but you actually do have emergency cover. So always bear that in mind. So once you've told everybody where you're going and what your plans are, just be prepared. Wear good boots, take extra layers of clothing, take some waterproofs, because the biggest danger, even in the warmest of climates, is getting wet. As soon as you get wet, you can suffer from hypothermia, and that's going to cause you problems. So just take some waterproofs, take plenty of water or water filters, and take a few extra snacks, because you need calories to burn. It keeps you warm, it keeps you going. Take a first aid kit, take a map, take a compass. Navigation is so important. This should be part of your standard pack when heading anywhere further than the car park. I like to take a whistle. A whistle is really good. A whistle will carry so much further than your voice. So good, yeah, definitely a great accessory to bring with you when away from the footpath. Be very aware. Excuse me, oh, these biscuits. Be very aware when hiking. God's sake. Be very aware when hiking. It's the tiny things that are gonna do the damage. So they say 90% of accidents happen on the way down. That's because you let your guard down. What I find are the most dangerous obstacles when out hiking are wet tree roots. They are killer. If you step on a wet tree root, you're gone. Hiking poles help with this. They'll help stabilize you if you fall. Just be aware of what's around you, and even though you're fatigued, try and keep steady on your feet. Definitely. Always take a head torch or a small torch, anything. Darkness can come really quickly, and it can be the difference between you finding the footpath and not finding a footpath. So there's a few tips, but really, this is what I want you to take away from the video. Rationalize everything. Don't let fear hold you back. Now this is cheesy, but I'm gonna say it, so cover your ears if you don't like cheese. The only thing to fear is fear itself. And that's so true, okay? Don't let your anxieties hold you back. If you're worried about going on a hike that's a couple of hours away from, you know, the visitor centre and the main car park where other people aren't going to be, don't worry about what could happen. Just do it, rationalise it. Okay, you haven't been ill in 5 years, you're not going to be ill tomorrow. No one's going to attack you, there's no one there. Wild animals, take precautions, and just try to visualize how good it will be. And the more precautions you take, the more self-confidence you'll have. So if you've got a GPS tracking your path, and you've got a mobile phone with full signal, you've got a bag full of water, loads of food, warm clothing, your wife knows where you are, she knows when you're going to be back, you're going to be full of confidence and you're going to focus on your photography. So if you do have these anxieties, take precaution. And always just be sensible and don't take any unnecessary risks. So if you're still feeling a little bit anxious about heading off into the wilderness, let's see if we can cure that with a bit of inspiration. And I'm going to do that with this week's photograph of the week. This photograph is by Nigel P. Morley. Go over to Instagram and follow him. He's just an excellent photographer. And this image to me is just beautiful. I just love it. The power. It's powerful and it's simple. It has simplicity and it has great power, great tones and great colours. Now, I am a strong believer and often think that the best images out there are those that are nice and simple and have a single subject and you know exactly what you're looking at. This image does that beautifully. The shapes are fantastic. It's pin sharp, there's lots of action. He's nailed the shutter speed. A lovely, lovely piece of work. So, huge fan. And there you go. So, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it has been of some help, and I hope it's maybe answered a couple of questions. So again, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye for now.